The Allen Line Company appreciates all of the dedicated carriers it takes to move loads across the U.S. Stay safe.
OOIDA, representing America's truckers since 1973, presents Landline Now with your host, Mark Redding.
What do you want at a truck stop? What kind of amenities are you looking for, and which of those is your priority? Is it nice showers, a sit-down restaurant, parking lot safety, or something else? The folks at TruckerPath were curious about that, so they conducted a survey. I'll talk with Chris Oliver of TruckerPath to get some insight into the results. If you spend any time working, or more specifically looking for parking in New Jersey, the state wants to hear from you. They're accepting feedback right now about the truck parking situation throughout the Garden State. It's part of a broader plan to address the shortage. Janice Marino-Doyle of the New Jersey Department of Transportation's Office of Freight Planning joins the show to discuss all of it. And finally, not many changes are showing up on the spot market, and it appears that may be the case for the summer. We speak with Brent Hutto from Truckstop about the past week and what the future could look like for rates. But first, the news with Scott Thompson.
Thanks, Mark. Our top story today: the Advisory Committee on Underride Protections is getting more time to resolve its differences. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg approved a renewal of the committee's charter for an additional year. The committee was set to wrap up its recommendations to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration about a possible side underride mandate this month through two reports, a majority opinion and a dissenting one, similar to how the Supreme Court handles a split decision. But the renewal gives the committee until the end of June 2025 to complete its work. That said, it's unclear what happens next. The Advisory Committee has held regular meetings over the past several months, but discussions have yielded very little compromise. The need for two reports illustrates that. Last year, NHTSA issued an advance notice of proposed rulemaking that considered requiring side underride guards on tractor trailers. Several of the committee's members have long lobbied for one, but a recently published cost-benefit analysis leads to questions of practicality. NHTSA research indicates that the annual cost of the mandate would be as much as $1.2 billion, while saving fewer than 20 lives each year. Another week, another drop in diesel prices. The Energy Information Administration says the national average dipped more than 3 cents last week to $3.72 a gallon. That marks 8 straight weeks of declines on the EIA survey, over which time the average has fallen more than 33 cents. All 10 regions recorded price dips last week, led by a 4.3 cent drop in New England. As for this week's numbers, ProMiles.com had the Tuesday morning average at $3.78 a gallon, down more than 3 cents compared to a week earlier. As with the EIA report, ProMiles is tracking declines in all 10 regions. Time for our weekly check on the spot market now, where there are very few signs of improvement. Brent Hutto with Truckstop says the marketplace hasn't changed much. Things picked up a bit over the Memorial Day holiday, but for the most part, things are on par with how they've been for the past 12 months, and Hutto says that's not likely to change.
There's still a lot of pressure in the market, and the reason that there's a lot of pressure, and what I mean by pressure is freight pressure, freight availability pressure. We're definitely in a pricing recession. Pricing is tough for the rates that truckers are using to agreeing to haul the freight, but the actual availability of freight is still pretty good. It's still 11, almost 12% above what we normally have in the marketplace, even though there was a decrease week to week across the board. And so we're still at an elevated marketplace when it comes to freight availability. But as I mentioned, rates are still, they're just hard. I know when I say the overall rates were about $2.40. Van was about $2, about $1.98, $2. And by the way, those are carrier rates. The broker put another 15% on it, and that's what the brokers are going to get. Going to quote back to the shipper, so you can kind of look at it that way. But I know 240 doesn't sound like a bad number, until you realize that there's a lot of cost in the marketplace, including inflation.
Hutto adds that reefer rates have gone through a rough spell over the past 2 weeks, down 11 cents a mile. For the full market update, stay tuned. We'll hear more from Hutto and our Ashley Blackford later on in today's program. A new bill introduced in the House would give veterans an easier pathway to careers in trucking. It's called the Senator Elizabeth Dole 21st Century Veterans Healthcare and Benefits Improvement Act, or H.R. 8371. The bill seeks to streamline the delivery of services through Veterans Affairs. It would also allow vets to use their GI Bill benefits for CDL training at VA-approved facilities. As it stands right now, the law requires a 2-year waiting period for that. H.R. 8371 currently has 21 co-sponsors in the House. The channel that leads into the Port of Baltimore is close to fully reopening. The Army Corps of Engineers said in a news release that they expect to have the full federal channel open by next Monday at the latest. Crews have been busy removing large sections of the collapsed Key Bridge from the channel, and while some vessels have been able to navigate through, bigger vessels have not. An alert for cross-border truckers up north, the Canada Border Services Agency providing an update about a possible strike that could happen any day now. Negotiations between the Public Service Alliance of Canada, the union representing border agents, and the government have been at an impasse for months. Now it looks like a strike could happen in the days or weeks to come. The Canada Border Services Agency says the border will remain open since 90% of frontline border services officers are essential workers, which means that they would continue to work through a strike. But picketing and other disruptions could lead to delays in border wait times. That is, again, if a strike occurs. We'll keep you updated if and when that happens. Emergency declarations have been issued in 2 Midwestern states over severe weather and the bird flu. First, in Iowa, where 2 separate emergencies have been declared. One came after the USDA confirmed a positive case of avian influenza in commercial layer chickens in Sioux County. That emergency will remain in effect through June 27th, giving hours of service relief for commercial vehicles providing direct relief. Weight requirements are also temporarily suspended for loads related to the emergency response on state highways. Meanwhile, also in Iowa, a separate severe weather emergency first issued last month has been expanded to include Dallas, Poweshiek, and Webster counties. That order will now remain in effect through June 27th as well. To the south in Oklahoma, a disaster declaration is in effect until June 24th. It's in response to severe weather that caused damage across 36 counties. The Tennessee DOT says new digital signs on a 28-mile stretch of Interstate 24 are reducing serious crashes. In the month since the signs went up, TDOT reports an 8.5% decline in crashes where people were hurt or killed. That's with traffic volume actually going up by 5%. The I-24 Smart Corridor includes digital speed limit and lane closure signs that are meant to make the roadway safer and less congested, giving drivers information about upcoming traffic conditions. The New York State Department of Transportation is looking into adding freight parking facilities along Interstate 84 in Dutchess and Orange counties. To determine locations, officials want to hear from truckers who work in the state. The survey is open now. The deadline to chime in is June 28th. We've got a link at landlinenow.com. The New Jersey DOT recently opened up a similar survey to get feedback from the trucking industry about parking throughout the Garden State. We'll delve into that a little later on in today's program when we speak with Janice Marino-Doyle of the New Jersey DOT's Office of Freight Planning. And finally, Caleb Hammett had a pretty good weekend. The Texas Truckers 2019 Peterbilt 389 he calls Haas won Best of Show at the 42nd Shell Rotella Super Rigs Truck Show in Fort Worth. That earned him $10,000 and a spot in the 2025 Super Rigs calendar. Hammett also won the Best Interior and Best Lights categories. Held at the Texas Motor Speedway, Super Rigs awarded more than $25,000 in cash and prizes across 20 different categories. For a full rundown of the winners with pictures, head on over to landline.media. And that's Landline Now News for today. I'm Scott Thompson.
Thanks, Scott. Congratulations to Gerald L. Engebretson of New Auburn, Wisconsin. He's received the OOIDA Safe Driving Award for 24 years of safe, accident-free driving. That's the equivalent of a car driver going 180 years without causing a single accident. Next, I'll discuss what truckers want in a truck stop with Chris Oliver of TruckerPath. Scott Thompson discusses a parking survey in New Jersey with Janice Marino-Doyle from the New Jersey DOT, and Ashley Blackford gets the latest on the spot market from Brent Hutto of Truckstop. We'll be right back. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
Every year, 28 million people are trafficked globally. The Your Roads, Their Freedom campaign seeks to raise awareness in the transport industry. Truck and bus drivers, be vigilant on the roads. If you see something suspicious, text 233-733 or be free.
Are you tired of the IRS following you around like a dark cloud? Call 888-557-4020 and get your life back.
Firestone tires are for more of everything, with more durability for more miles and more confidence in your fleet. Firestone's tested tires help fleets save with value where it matters most. Learn more at bridgestonenationalfleet.com/4moremiles.
It's tested and proven. Burn 2.1% less fuel when you balance all wheel ends with Centromatic. Call 800-523-8473 to get the OOIDA discount.
Landline now. Welcome back. What do you want when you arrive at a truck stop? What kind of amenities are you looking for, and which of those is your priority? The folks at TruckerPath were curious about that, so they conducted a survey. I spoke with Chris Oliver of TruckerPath recently to get some insight into the results. Well, first of all, Chris, I'm wondering if you can start kind of broadly here and describe the overall topic of this latest survey.
Yeah, so we wanted to do a survey of drivers and see what amenities are most important to them or what they're looking for in a truck stop. You know, what makes a good truck stop from a not as good was really the goal. And as usual, we got a lot of responses, 500 responses. Took about a week. And you know, our base is never shy about sharing their opinions. So it's good. It was an easy question to ask and easy responses to get.
Why in particular this topic? Was there something that prompted you to look into this?
It's just something that we look at regularly. You know, I mean, one of the primary reasons why drivers use TruckerPath is to find truck stops and the fueling locations. And when they do that, they sift through them both by ratings and reviews, as well as by the amenities they have. All that we have posted on the app, so it's easy for them to see. And we were just kind of curious, you know, what is it that's most important to them when they're looking across that, both just for the sake of understanding it and making sure that we're including the right amenities on the listings and the details about the truck stops. And then also just to help us kind of quantify, you know, how, you know, what portion of the swath of truck stops are kind of fit in the bill.
Okay. Well, now that we've kind of talked about that, I'm wondering if you can go into the overall findings. What were the top amenities that truckers are looking for?
Yeah, happy to. Not a huge surprise of parking is the top of the list. You know, that's an ongoing conversation we're having throughout the industry and a real challenge for everyone. So, you know, 86% of the 500 responses said parking was important to them. So almost everyone. My guess is that at least 13% who didn't probably were like, duh, of course parking is important. Let me look at other things. So, you know, parking was absolutely most important, abundant parking.
Okay. What were the next few down the list?
Next, again, not a big shocker, clean showers. You know, if you spend any time on the road and wanted that shower, boy, when you roll into the truck stop and it's nice and clean and ready for you, it's very welcome. So that was right up there next, which, you know, like I said, not too surprised. Outside of having fuel, those are the, you know, primary reasons why drivers go to truck stops, right?
Yeah, and I kind of wanted to explore that a little bit further here. I noticed in your results that, you know, as you mentioned, parking's 1, showers was 2, but showers came in at more than 67% of truckers surveyed, saying that they look for that in a truck stop, and that was way above the following results that were further down the list. Did you get any comments for truckers or see anything on social media from them that kind of explained why they rate the clean showers so high?
Yeah, we not directly, but, you know, nothing quantitative, but a lot of qualitative, you know, little tidbits here and there that we see in reviews and in our forum posts. And it's really comes down to what I kind of said earlier. You spend all day or a couple days in a cab driving long hours, lots of miles. You get a little funky, right? You know, let's be honest. It's not an easy thing to do. And when you roll into a stop and you're ready to wrap up for the day and get a shower, you know, for it to not be clean and ready for you is a bit of a letdown. Still nice to have, of course. But a nice clean shower that's spacious, you know, like home, good shower heads, good water pressure, clean towels, you know, that all just washes it away, you know, no pun intended. So, you know, that's what we see most often are those like, you know, great towels or wonderful water pressure, you know, good size, you know, in addition to clean. Those are the adjectives that we see in the reviews.
It's interesting too that if you look at truck stop showers now as compared with years back, where I've talked to truckers about how they used to be group showers, like you would find, when you were in gym class in school.
Yep.
And it's amazing to me that they have improved so much and become, nice, private, much more clean, and so on.
Yeah, it's exactly the analogy I was going to use. Was like back in high school, the big room with a bunch of heads sticking out of the walls, but then the girls had nice showers. They had individual stalls, if you remember. So I actually made a joke just a few weeks ago. I was talking to somebody who's like, yeah, now that, it's no more a bunch of heads sticking out of the wall. It's, like the girls' showers used to be.
Well, let's talk a little bit further down the list here. And the next two are kind of related. Number 3 was having an on-site restaurant, which is something I hear a lot about from folks. So number 4 was healthy and or fresh food selection. Did they give you any further details in terms of what kind of on-site restaurant? Again, looking at maybe comments you got or responses on social media, are we talking that they really do want the old sit-down restaurant like some talk about, or is fast food okay?
Yeah, that's a great question. So yes, the restaurant's super important. Again, not a big surprise. But what I found, especially in the last couple of years, is in reading the reviews, the qualitative feedback was it's not the fast food places. Those are nice. They definitely serve their purpose. But what people comment on most and what drives high ratings for the truck stops are the non-chains, the Eddie's Waffles, or whatever it may be called. Those are the types of places that drivers really, really provide a lot of feedback and reviews on it and rave about as something unique, local, not just a typical burger, fries, and a soda, please. So that individual, I guess you'd call it a proprietary sit-down type restaurant, old school restaurant is what I think of it as, is what, they tend to look for most.
And that's interesting because, of course, that does harken back again to the old days of trucking, when that was the most common thing, was to find a individually owned local restaurant at those old style truck stops.
Yeah. And that still wins the hearts. I can't tell you. We do a publication every year, the top 100, highest rated truck stops within the app. And after it finished up last year, earlier this year, I was reading the reviews, and that was the one thing I found over and over again on the restaurant side of things was, local, one of a kind, mom and pop, diner, those types of comments, which, again, kind of makes sense to me. Now, the flip side is when you're hungry and McDonald's is McDonald's, you know what you're going to get, and you're going to get it, and it's going to do what it's supposed to do. So I'm sure there's tremendous, demand for that as well. But I guess what kind of wins the hearts of the drivers are the uniqueness of those, one unique type places.
One of the things that struck me there was that next item there, the desire for healthy or fresh food. And I know you've probably done this survey before. Is that something new here, or has that been building up for a number of years?
It's like the last year or two, it's really started to move up the list. It surprised me as well. It really, I think last year on the 4th of July was the first time it popped up. We did a similar survey, what are you going to do for the 4th and what kind of food, and healthy food popped up. And that's good. Kind of surprised me. It certainly doesn't fit the stereotype typically. And it's not really easy to do when you're on the road all the time to find healthy food, but it's definitely crept its way up the scale quite a bit. And my question, the first time I saw it, I was like, okay, healthy food. Does that mean like Diet Coke instead of a regular Coke? Help me understand what healthy food means. So we did a little bit of digging, a little bit of reading the qualitative reviews, and it really is, like bananas, carrots, salads, apples, fruit, homemade food that are prepared for you ahead of time that you can grab and take instead of something that's cooked. And let's face it, lots of salt and grease, which is delicious, but not the healthiest food in the world. So it's definitely been creeping up, and, kind of a welcome surprise.
Yeah, definitely. Rather than go through the rest of the categories there, I'm wondering if you can point out, were there any other results further down on the list that you found particularly interesting, or any comments on those that you found worthy of note?
Yeah, actually the next one on the list kind of surprised me as high as it was, which was 24/7 truck maintenance availability. okay, I get it. That's super convenient when you need it. What a wonderful thing to have. But the demand, almost, it was 29, almost 30% of the respondents said that's an important amenity for them. That's a lot. That's, if maybe it's just my naivete or ignorance, but I would have thought to be something that's not widely available. It's like more of a nicety than we really want this, a demand, but it's up there, which is great. And I obviously I get it. When the truck's broken, you want it to get fixed. You want to wait till the next day when somebody comes in. So makes all the sense in the world. I was just a little bit surprised by how high it ranked.
Well, and I know I'm asking you to kind of speculate here, but when I look at that, I kind of wonder, we have seen kind of a generational change among truckers. Back, if you look at the old timers, a lot of them did their own maintenance. And as trucks have gotten more complex, that's become more difficult to do. And for other reasons, a lot fewer truckers are doing their own maintenance. Do you think it's the generational change finally showing up in results on a survey like this?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a generational change. It's the increased technology in the trucks. I don't know about heck. I lift up the hood of my car. I don't even know it doesn't even look like an engine, and trucks are getting equally, if not more so, technically complicated. The other thing I would say is, all of us, regardless of age, are pretty used to getting what we want when we want it these days. So, the idea of having to wait till tomorrow, is a little bit crazy in a lot of instances. So I could see, all three of those factors playing into, a higher demand for on-demand service.
Yeah, and I'm showing my age here, but I kind of roll my eyes when I hear someone look at a microwave and say, why can't it be instant? I know.
I have a 16-year-old son, and we went to dinner a couple nights ago, and, we had to wait to get a table. And you would have thought it was the end of the world. He's like, what do you mean? Like, we've been waiting for 20 minutes. And just shut up and sit down.
Yeah, maybe we're more used to waiting online, as they say.
Yeah.
One other thing I wanted to ask you about, Chris, and I noticed this was at the bottom at just over 13%, and that was truck stops being pet friendly. And with all the truckers that I've met over the years that travel with the pet, honestly, I thought this would have been higher. Do you have any thoughts as to why it's so far down on the list?
I really don't know. My hunch is if you love your dog or your cat, you're taking them anyways. Maybe they'll stay out in the cab when you run inside, but either way, they're going with you. So it's a nice thing to have. Probably not as widely available as many would want, so probably not really high on the list. But I don't know about you, but I love my dog, and if I want him to go with me, I'm taking him. I may not take him inside a store, although it seems like a lot of people do that these days, a lot more than in the past. But I think, kind of he's going with me no matter what mentality.
Yeah, and I think a lot of truckers have that. I see a lot who put a little vest on their dog saying, emotional support animal, so they can bring them into the stores. And, for their sake, I hope that works out.
Yeah, well, it seems to, because it seems like every time I go to any store, somebody's got their dog with them. That wasn't that way several years ago.
No, absolutely not. Well, Chris, that's all I've got. Is there anything else that you want to add?
No, not really. We do surveys like this very frequently. We want to kind of share the info with the industry from the driver's perspective. So we do them regularly, and it's often pretty interesting. So we're happy to do it, and that's really our position at TruckerPath is we just try to make a day in the life for the drivers a little bit easier, and by helping the industry to understand what it is they're looking for in a truck stop, we'll do that. We'll help make things a little bit better for everybody. So that's our goal with these types of surveys.
Very cool. Chris, thank you very much for your time. I sure appreciate it.
You bet, Mark. Happy to anytime.
That was Chris Oliver at TruckerPath talking about a survey the company conducted regarding what amenities truckers look for in a truck stop. You can read more about the survey by Tyson Fisher of Landline Magazine at the website landline.media. And you can see other surveys that the company has conducted, along with other information at their website, TruckerPath.com. And of course, we'll have links to both of those on our website, landlinenow.com. Just click on the photo or headline at the top of the page. Again, that's landlinenow.com. I'm Mark Rettig, and this is Landline Now.
Today's rising costs affect everyone. Replace your harmonic damper with a genuine Vibertech TVD viscous damper to prevent costly repairs and downtime. Keep your money in your pocket and your truck on the road with Vibertech TVD. Recommended replacement at 500,000 miles or 15,000 hours.
Ready to make more money? Use a better load board. For a limited time, get 50% off Truckstop Load Board Pro. Just go to truckstop.com/go and enter promo code READY2024 when you purchase Loadboard Pro. Attention professional drivers, do you owe money to the IRS? Integrity Tax Relief Group frees drivers from IRS trouble. Call for help now, 855-976-4291. That's 855-976-4291.
Welcome back to Landline Now. If you spend any time working in New Jersey, and more specifically, if you spend time looking for parking in New Jersey, the state DOT wants to hear from you. They have a new truck parking survey they're asking for help with as part of a broader strategy to address the parking crisis. To tell us about all of it, we say hello to Janice Marino-Doyle. Janice is the lead for the Office of Freight Planning at the New Jersey DOT, and she joins us now. Janice, thanks for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. And let's just start with the survey itself, because we got a number of things to talk about there. And then I want to kind of zoom out and look at the bigger picture there in New Jersey. But this survey in particular, can you kind of explain what you're asking of both short haul and long haul drivers?
Sure. NJDOT, we're seeking feedback on truck parking issues and the potential solutions in the state from those who understand the challenges and that driver experience that they deal with every day. Truck drivers deliver the goods that, the whole state relies on, and they need safe and secure locations to rest and stage their loads. And we want to hear directly from them. Our department wants to know where they're consistently running into problems. We want to know the specifics. The Office of Freight Planning wants to get their input on the strategies, which we will eventually and hopefully improve the parking situation.
Yeah, and I definitely want to ask you about that here in just a moment. But in terms of the survey, again, you've got, I know, two separate ones right now, right? One for short-haul drivers, one for long-haul drivers. I think maybe the answer is kind of self-explanatory, but can you explain why in particular you do have these two separate surveys and how they kind of differ?
Sure. Long-haul and short-haul drivers, they have different types of truck parking needs. Short-haul drivers, they drive shorter routes. Usually they return home each day. Their parking needs require shorter breaks or staging before dropping off or picking up a load. On the other hand, long-haul drivers may have those same needs, but in addition to that, they may need a place for a longer rest, maybe overnight. They need well-lit, secure parking locations, and those are at a premium. These two groups have varying needs and experiences with truck parking in New Jersey. So separate surveys will allow us to get a real focused feedback on those different needs and develop specific potential solutions for each one.
Yeah, and I think you make some important points there. And what that tells me is that this is comprehensive, that you are thinking about everybody and their particular needs, because as you point out, there are different needs for different folks out there and what they're hauling and how far they're going from A to B and back and forth and everything. I think it's also worth mentioning, too, about this being comprehensive in that you're not just asking that short and long haul truckers contribute to this survey. You're asking for all stakeholders, right, in the trucking industry to weigh in as well. And I assume that's part of the strategy of getting all the information that you can to make the best moves moving forward in terms of addressing this issue, right?
Absolutely. It's not just reserved for short or long-haul drivers. The survey is open to anyone who wants to provide feedback on trucking parking issues in New Jersey. Those include representatives of the government, corporate staff of trucking or logistics companies, and other industry experts.
So let's zoom out like I said we would do here. You kind of alluded to it there in talking about the feedback that you receive. You're going to use that in terms of this broader strategy, this broader study into the truck parking situation throughout New Jersey. Can you tell me, and we may not know the full picture, and obviously this study will give you a better idea of what the full picture looks like, but do we know about the current need for truck parking in New Jersey right now? How bad is the situation? Obviously, you're trying to find those spots where more parking is needed. But do you have a pretty good idea of the overall situation right now?
Well, it's important to note that all the responses that we receive right now are going to be confidential. We're not going to use any names or affiliations. We want to analyze the severity of the situation and the nature of truck parking challenges, and we want to specify on locations and sites from the perspective of the truck driver. We want to know if there's certain places or times of the day that pose a particular problem, with trucks looking for a safe place to park. In addition, we want to get feedback from drivers and compare that with other GPS TruckerPath data. We want to take those two records, the information from the drivers and the records from the data, and try to get an understanding of where trucks are parking most frequently in New Jersey, and help to reinforce and confirm by the information that we receive, what the situation is. The two distinct sets of information that we gather, we want to use together to provide us with a clearer picture. The current usage and future needs of truck parking within New Jersey will be identified and highlighted. We want to gain a better understanding of the nature of those needs. We want to make informed recommendations for possible improvements, and we want to have the most benefit and impact in the state. We want to utilize our time and our resources in the most efficient and productive ways possible.
Yeah, and that makes perfect sense. Clearly, though, the state does realize that there is some sort of issue there, clearly, by putting this out there. I would imagine. I can't imagine you're expecting to get a bunch of, answers back that, hey, everything's great. We have the perfect amount of truck parking. You do realize, I guess, there's an issue there, I guess is what I'm asking.
Yeah, no, we understand the situation, that this is a problem, and we want to try to get the analysis and the surveys and that data so we can analyze it better. The survey responses we've received so far indicate that the problem is serious, but we want to hear from as many drivers as we can to make sure that we're capturing all that specific information. We want to, and input possible solutions. All the data we will get to see where those parking issues are occurring, through the whole state, where additional space is needed, how many spots are estimated, what's happening in those designated areas. We also want to conduct, we've also conducted interviews across a cross-section of stakeholders, including trucking companies and industry groups. And we're going to take all that information and help us to estimate how many more spaces are needed and where they best would be placed, and the impact and that impact, and what other strategies we need to look at to make the most, provide the best solution. But it's a very complex situation.
Yeah.
And, with everything and the way the economy has changed and more people, purchasing things online, it's all added to that complexity.
Yeah, it certainly is complicated for sure. And I think you made a good point there, and I want to emphasize it in that the responses that you get are going to be taken seriously. You're going to look through them, and you're going to do something with them. Folks are busy out there. We're all busy, working and families and everything else that's going on in the world today. It just feels like we're so busy all the time. But with something like this, it will, you hope, and we think, will have a positive impact down the line, right? With the results of this being turned into a strategy that eventually turns into more truck parking spots in the places that need it most. So, again, I think we can probably emphasize that this is an important thing for folks. And maybe they live in New Jersey, maybe they just travel through New Jersey and do business in New Jersey, but it is an important thing for them to give their feedback because it is going to be used for something worthwhile there. I just want to make sure we emphasize that for folks out there who think, maybe I don't, want to take the time to do this, but it is relatively quick, right?
Oh, it is definitely something that we're taking very serious. My whole, like I said, my office is the Office of Freight Planning, and that's what we focus on. We're focused on freight movement within the state. So we've been, just to give you a little bit of history, in 2007, New Jersey was the first state to develop a statewide freight plan. And we had not planned, they highlighted distinct need for freight supported facilities like truck parking and rest areas. And then subsequently, 2012, 17, and 23, we also looked into that plan and we identified situations and we've made improvements. But I want my whole team. We consult on a continually every day with local and regional and federal freight planning individuals, experts, to consider where NJDOT can support the policy or the infrastructure improvement. The current effort magnifies, it's being magnified and reinforces this effort. We're focusing on specific locations with a renewed desire to identify specific recommendations that the state can carry forward. So, yes, we are.
Yeah, and I think that's the beauty and also the frustrating part about the truck parking crisis is that the beauty of it is, once you know where those spaces are needed most, obviously there's a financial consideration at play there, but building truck parking spots is not the most complicated thing that, a city or a state is going to do, right? But it's complicated in that you do have to go through the process and you got to make sure that, all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted. But this is one of these problems that, as I look at it, is a solvable issue so long as you have the information, which again is where the survey comes in and making the best decisions for everything. So,
no, I appreciate that. I mean, we're currently right now we have a pets parking information system that we put in our restaurant areas. So in a few areas, we put sensors and cameras in 2 facilities to really record and detail more information about the capacity at the facility at different times of day. We're taking that, depending on what that report tells us and what we see, we're going to implement different strategies in rest areas throughout the state to provide real truck parking availability and information to truck drivers, where they know if there's someplace that they can pull in, on a real-time situation. So those are the different things we're looking at. This type of information has been successful in other areas, and so we want to see if we can better utilize that here. So then we can take one efficient step to address that current problem right now. There are other strategies that we're considering too.
And you said you're getting responses already. I know you're kind of looking through those, and that process will continue. But has anything surprised you by what you've read or seen so far?
Well, I think like anything else, when you ask a person a question, it depends on where they come from, where they're sitting, I guess you could say, on how they're going to answer it. So there are different threads that we're seeing, but it's not, we haven't formulated all the information as yet. But the interesting part is that there is a problem, and whether you're driving through New Jersey to get to another state or whether you're actually making delivery here, we want to address safe parking. And we've seen, everybody's seen different issues where trucks are parking, in places that, maybe that's not the best location for everyone. So we want to try to address that. We have, we're gathering a lot of information so we can provide a full understanding of that. We're exploring a whole type of range of strategies from information systems that were being tested. We have the capacity, maybe looking at private truck stops. That could be a possibility, and public rest areas. We're also looking at the possibility of changing regulations that can contribute to those issues and making modifications. For example, the Federal Highway Truck Parking Handbook recommends that zoning language and local jurisdictions could use that require new industrial and distribution operations to provide appropriate truck parking on site. That's a long-term approach that we would address the problem at its source. But in the short term, we consider working with local jurisdictions to reduce restrictions that may inhibit the construction of new truck parking facilities. Local jurisdictions could also maybe eradicate some restrictions that prevent trucks from parking safely in existing on-street locations. We're also exploring the possibility of charging for parking. We need to understand the whole problem and which strategies are going to be most effective and feasible in each different area of the state. So when that survey comes in, we hope to gather all the information that we're currently assessing and the information that comes in from the survey so we can put a plan together.
Our thanks to Janice Marino-Doyle of the New Jersey DOT. The deadline to take part in that survey is June 16th. To do that, we've got a link at landlinenow.com. We've got much more to come. Keep it right here.
Penske owns and operates some of the best-maintained vehicles on the planet. Our used trucks come with a 5-year maintenance report and pre-sale inspection. So if you're in the market for a top-quality pre-owned truck, look no further. Search our inventory today at PenskeUsedTrucks.com.
Control your toll costs and eliminate tolling headaches with Prepass Tolls. Prepass Tolls means toll volume discounts. Just one invoice for all tolls and fewer violations. Call 877-878-5970 or go to Prepass.com.
Since you started, what you've loved about trucking is the freedom. Heading out on your favorite route, a good driving song, and thinking about truck insurance. Well, maybe not that last one. That's why we're here. At OOIDA, we have a full range of truck insurance products, expert advice, and great customer service, helping you get the right coverage for your operation. Go to OOIDA.com, because your job is to drive. Our job is to help with everything else.
Landline Now, welcome back. If you're hauling freight and running your own business, you need to keep track of some basic facts and figures that can determine whether you succeed or fail. And that includes finding the freight and how much money you can make hauling it. Today, Landline Now's Ashley Blackford will bring us some of that information and get some insight as to why things are happening with the folks from Truckstop.com. Here's Ashley now with a report.
Thanks, Mark, and hello to Brent Hutto of Truckstop. How are you doing today, Brent?
Well, I am doing just fine, Ashley. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, at an industry event. I always like to get out and see the marketplace and talk to the people that run freight up and down the highway. So that's a good thing. It always fires me up.
Good. Now, I know you like to start these segments with a song, and I'll be honest, this week's song, I had to go on YouTube and listen to it. Talk to me about that and the current market conditions.
Oh, yeah, no problem. Well, I just make it fun and, kind of certain themes about the market. There was everybody knows the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, the sitcom that was out there. But, he came from a rap band, DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. And there was this great song they had called Summertime. And I just thought it was kind of appropriate. And that we would talk about it because it's kind of a relaxing song because I use that song, Ashley, because the marketplace hadn't changed much. Yeah, it went up a little bit. It always has little changes during the holiday, which went to Memorial Holiday and things. But for the most part, the marketplace has been like it is for the past more than 12 months. It's not likely going to change. So I just kind of chose a fun song. I love the part of the lyric that says "Adjust the bass and let the Alpine blast." Just kind of relax. It's going to be summertime. It's going to be like it is for at least the next couple of months. Don't know, there are some uncertainties going into the election, but so we're just talking about the marketplace. We did have some increases during the holiday period, but as with everything, it adjusts back down. There's still a lot of pressure in the market, and the reason that there's a lot of pressure, and what I mean by pressure is freight pressure, freight availability pressure. We're definitely in a pricing recession. Pricing is tough for the rates that truckers are using to agreeing to haul the freight, but the actual availability freight is still pretty good. It's still 11, almost 12% above what we normally have in the marketplace, even though there was a decrease week to week across the board. And so we're still at an elevated marketplace when it comes to freight availability. But as I mentioned, rates are still, they're just hard. I know when I say the overall rates were about $2.40. Van was about $2, about $1.98, $2. But, and by the way, those are carrier rates. The broker put another 15% on it, and that's what the brokers are going to get, going to quote back to the shipper. So you can kind of look at it that way. But I know 240 doesn't sound like a bad number, until you realize that there's a lot of cost in the marketplace, including inflation. And so right now it can be somewhat marginal in different areas, certainly along the van haulers, which is normally the least costly freight in the marketplace that's moved because it's the most competitive. There's the most freight is in the van part of the marketplace. It's the most competitive. A little harder to move flatbed, and you got to qualify to move reefer, and to do those things, you got to have a certain type of equipment. So those are much higher. Where van was at $1.98, flatbed's at $2.50, and reefer is about $2.38. Reefer did have a pretty big decrease over the last 2 weeks, down 11 cents a mile, which is pretty significant, but it was up like 30 cents. So it kind of goes back and forth. One of the unique things is fuel continues to come down, which is a good thing.
What are some of the top regions and lanes from last week?
I always appreciate you asking that question, Ashley, because I think that's where the music is found inside this marketplace. Because there are lots of different parts of the marketplace where you can find better freight rates and for load availability, which usually leads into better freight rates. And so for the most part, the load availabilities were down because the entire marketplace was down. But they're still good. They're still good marketplaces. And so when you look at around the Horn, the South Central is increased, Southeast is increased. Southeast part of the United States has got the most pressure, the index pressure in it, which means the freight rates are going to be a little higher in the Southeast than they are anywhere else, and in the South Central. Probably lowest in the Mountain Central and Midwest, but then not too bad in the West Coast and Northeast. But when you look at the rates overall, kind of just in, like I said, it was kind of balanced out at 240. It was 240 2 weeks ago. It was 240 last week. Remember, all the data that I talk about with you guys is the last 7 days. All right, so it's the freshest data in the marketplace. West Coast is still pretty low, but Southeast, as I mentioned, was high. It's 250. South Central was 240. So it's kind of all balanced right there in the middle. Some great places to look is I know the last few times I've talked to you, it's been kind of like, wash, rinse, repeat. It's all been freight out of Texas. So not much has changed. Dallas to Albuquerque on van, there was a 76% increase. It went from 223 to 392. Now that's pretty impressive. So Houston to Albuquerque had a 45% increase. And I say these because look, know your data. Look on the load board. Do your searches and find those areas that increase. Top flatbed lanes, so we're 20%. Chicago to Atlanta, Kansas City, Missouri, just some regular milk run kind of stuff. Denver to Albuquerque. Seems like Albuquerque has a lot of great freight in it, up 14%. And then on the refrigerated side, again, out of Texas, Dallas to El Paso, Dallas to Salt Lake. Then there's Phoenix to Albuquerque. There's Albuquerque again. Those were all anywhere between 52 and 23% increases. So I know when it goes from $1.18 to $1.07, so that was $1.18 to $1.07. That must have been a really short haul. But the point being is that there's great places to look. There's great places to look in the market, and the marketplace continues to have good availability. What are some important industry points owner-operators should be aware of? I appreciate you asking that question, too. We always talk about that because it's always good just to keep up with things. I'll give you one thing that's kind of unique. We do a lot of research, and I want to talk about that in a second, but I just saw something unique the other day about manufacturing that's going to begin to increase in the United States, which should be very, very profitable manufacturing or shipper hauling that you can do, is the microchips. We had a lot of issues during the pandemic with microchips and trying to get them from overseas. Well, the United States invested $52 billion with the United States microchip manufacturers and said, hey, build them here. Well, in the next 10 years, that's going to all start to take place. But it's kind of interesting to look at the companies that were given money to build bigger, better facilities here in the United States so we can have that manufacturing here so we can protect that against our marketplace. But the other piece of research I was talking about is we do a lot of research. We have a relationship with Bloomberg, and we do a lot of research in the marketplace. And we did some carrier research. Well, by the way, we do these every quarter. And so this carrier research consists of a couple of hundred, about 225 carriers, and about 45% of them own just one tractor. So we like the one tractor guys because it gives us a really good feeling on the spot market carrier because typically it's a one truck owner-operator. And some of the things that got us we got back were like, what are they looking at from loads? We're looking at from loads. 62% of those carriers reporting lower freight volume in Q1, but the issue is they're looking backwards, of course, over the last couple of years, and certainly it's down. But even though it was down, 33% of them still expected to increase. And only 19% predict the freight demand to decline in the same time frame, which represents, a pretty good unique point in the marketplace. And then there's some other encouraging signs that most carriers, the majority of the people that we polled, and this is what I love about truckers, man. I love about the owner-operator, believe that better times are around the corner. And so they believe that, hey, we've been at the bottom. These are salty professional truck drivers. They know what's going on. And so they know that we've been at the bottom of rates for a while, and they know that things will come back up. And so it's good to see that they're encouraged. And, where the majority of them think that it's going to go up, only about 25% think they're going to decline at all. So that's an encouraging thing because, we need the American trucker going up and down the highway delivering goods. because man, that's how our country's strong, and so really appreciate that.
All right, Brent, thank you so much.
Man, my pleasure. It's always good to talk to Landline and OOIDA and support the carriers out there. Really appreciate how you guys support the carriers, because that's what we're all about too, and really appreciate my relationship with you, Ashley. Thanks a lot for having me on.
Of course. That was Brent Hutto with Truckstop. Mark, back to you.
Thanks, Ashley. That's our program for today. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
Capital Reman is your leading source for quality remanufactured engines and components. Capital Reman stands ready to serve all OOIDA members to help reduce costly engine repairs or replacement. Visit capitalreman.com today and use code OOIDA10 to save.
Get the most power and performance out of your rig with Howe's Diesel Defender. It provides maximum lubricity and contains specialized IDX4 detergent to clean and prevent deposits and safely removes harmful water. Visit HowesProducts.com for more information.
I'm a dad,
a son,
a husband,
wife,
I'm a writer,
photographer.
I farm.
I'm a veteran.
I love old cars, fishing,
my kids,
chrome,
and I am
a professional truck driver.
And together we are OOIDA.
OOIDA was founded by truckers to stand up and speak on behalf of truckers. We've done that by combining the individual voices of our members into a single, powerful voice. Protecting your interests, defending your rights.
Join us!
Make your voice heard. Join OOIDA, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association. Call 1-800-444-5791 or visit OOIDA.com.